Hello, everyone. My name is John Durbin. I am an alcoholic and a person in long-term family recovery, and I really appreciate Mary Beth asking me to speak to you folks and give you a little insight as to my journey with double recovery, healing from addiction, and the family impact. So let me go ahead and get my PowerPoint started. As I said, my name is John E.D. I'm an alcoholic and have a little over 20 years sober, and I would say about 15 years of recovery from the family impact of addiction. And my story was that I grew up in a family where, although we told each other we loved each other every day, there also was substance use. My father actually passed away from being addicted to tobacco, and so that impacted the family in a very negative way. And there was some communication problems and some things like that, dynamics in our family. Um, but when I grew up, I ended up becoming more and more involved with alcohol, and that was my journey back then. And I became extremely addicted to alcohol and wound up having to go through 6 treatment episodes to finally get sober. And I don't know if you know anybody that struggled with that, but every time I went to treatment, I think, I thought I was a little smarter than they were. And I had Johnny D's plan. I was gonna follow to figure this thing out. I was gonna figure out how I was gonna get sober. And I kept trying to do it on my own. And as so many of us in recovery find out, I realized eventually that I couldn't do it on my own. And that when I finally, after 6 treatment episodes and 12 trips to the emergency room, turned to um, Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12-step recovery process all the way in November of 2003, I found not only was I able to survive from the chemical alcohol, but also to find a new way of living at the time so that I could survive. I could live with me. I could live within my own skin, and that was a big deal. That was a huge deal in my life. And like many other people, I think I thought that was going to fix everything. That my family would, my impact on my family. I broke their hearts. They couldn't have anything at the end. They couldn't have anything to do with me anymore. I remember I was in detox and my mom called me up and told me that they were going to pay this Cobra bill for me so that my hospital stay had been covered and then they were done with me. And I said, "Uh-oh, I'm really gonna have to do it this time." But my family was um, badly devastated by it. My parents, I found out later, went to Al-Anon at the time and shared what they were going through with that and found some comfort in that. And that really benefited them. And I'm grateful for anyone that had anything to do with that. And so grateful that happened. So I thought that everything was going to fix in my family. What I learned was that I had my alcoholism and addiction had a, a big impact on my family, and that there was a lot more to it than that was going to have to be worked on. I had so much more work to do. And the good news is that also meant that I had so much more relief to do. Um, and I took all the information I learned from treatment, a lot of the family dynamics and things I learned about through treatment. That was really powerful for me when you go to a good program and they do that. My parents came to family night and that kind of thing, and I learned about the family roles and those kinds of things, and that was really, really powerful. But one of the things that I learned that didn't just fix itself was that I think of myself as a person that's born with a heart that's just a little too big, right? All right, raise your hands out there if that applies to you. If you got anybody out there that has a heart too big. And what I want to tell you is, you know what, that's a gift. That is truly a gift to be able to love people through some of the things that we do and all of that kind of thing and keep going every day and just love people so deeply. But that gift what that means is that we can get through things, especially together, that we might not have been able to do otherwise. And that's really, really incredible. But there's a price for it, isn't there? And what I learned was with that price, with that heart that was a little too big, was that if I'm not careful, I can either drive myself crazy in my own recovery, trying to help other people and that kind of thing inappropriately, but also that I needed to work on boundaries and all of that kind of thing and learn how to help people. Also to build my self-worth through understanding the dynamics of the damage that I had caused. And I learned a lot of things doing the steps and working with families in Al-Anon and figuring out, things like the timing of amends and how that all worked and kind of fit together. And so I realized that we had this additional work to do with that family recovery. And I realized that it was really super, super important with all the damage that I'd done. One of the things that my big heart wanted me to do was to run out when I saw anybody that was struggling and say, you got to stop doing what you're doing, and try to yank them into sobriety, because I knew how powerful sobriety was. And what I was taught by people in Al-Anon and my sponsor in AA and that kind of thing was that the best thing I could do for them was take care of me and make sure my recovery was where it belongs. And how did that benefit? I have a stepsister, beloved stepsister, that we knew something, that she was struggling and having some tough times with her husband and that kind of thing. And she started asking me about, when she would come see me, she would ask me a few questions about AA and, oh, so do you got the birthday meeting and all that sort of thing? And she would ask me about that. And I thought that was kind of odd. And I got a phone call not too long after that she said, I wanted to do it by myself here in the Bay Area, but I want you to come down and see me and go to an AA meeting and give me my 1-year chip for AA. And boy, was that a powerful thing. And what I realized is that when I got to inspire her through my example to do that, but I didn't go do it for her or try to do it for her. And that was really powerful. And then I have an older sister who's still working on making her story really interesting. And I pray for her, and I'm worried about her because she is a super achiever. And that really can be very difficult, because she's not quite bad enough that she is forced to go into recovery. So it's kind of this in and out thing. And so that's really tough, but I'm going to keep working with you guys and being in Al-Anon and all of that kind of thing, and be ready for the day I get that phone call. And I know that's the most powerful thing I can do. And really good news with the gift with that big heart, it causes us a lot of pain, because boy, can I feel things for people and all that kind of stuff, and care way too much about because I'm also a certified drug and alcohol professional as well. And so, I had to learn not to take it personal when they decided to go back out, or when they get, I don't get them clean, I don't get them dirty, right? But I help them as much as I can. But what an opportunity to grow that provides. And so don't everybody tell you you're too emotional, or that your heart's too big, and that's a negative thing. It's a positive thing. But with great power comes great responsibility, as they say in the Marvel universe, right? So and there are parallels to Al-Anon from the two programs. And one thing about the AA program, what I found, and I don't know if this is true of everyone, but I know with me, once I did the steps and I started doing all that in AA, and I understood the dynamics of a 12-step program, then when I went to Al-Anon, a lot of it transferred. Yes, I learned it from a very different perspective, and I got to learn about the family dynamics and the greater impact that I'd had on people. But it wasn't like I had to do a completely separate recovery. I just had to do it from a new perspective. Does that make sense? And so that was really powerful. And the way I think about it is that Al-Anon or AA saved my life. It literally, first of all, gave me the strength through the other people that I worked with to stop putting alcohol in my body. And so therefore, although it had been killing me, I was able to almost effortlessly stop drinking alcohol. And to this day, I've not had another drink. So it saved my life. But Al-Anon and family recovery and the family dynamics and learning all of that is what allowed me to live a more satisfying way of life, and learn how to get to play with others. And it's very, very rewarding. It's also tough, because just like when I was in AA, you're not successful every time and all that kind of thing. I kind of tell people in my meetings when I go, it's kind of like I learn how to just that life and recovery with people around that are also need to be in recovery, and that kind of thing is not a merry-go-round. It's a roller coaster. And what I say is, when I do Al-Anon and I do AA, I get to hang on to that roller coaster and see what's over the next rise, because I know Sometimes it's going to be good and sometimes it's going to be challenging, but I get to keep hanging on. And I've been doing that. Now I got 2 grandkids in my life, right? Man who drank through his childbearing years, and not that I don't have biological children, but I marry my wife and she's got a son and he has 2 children now. And I love them more than I could have believed I could have loved anyone. So that's the gifts of my program. But I know that when I was really suffering, I had a girlfriend who she titles herself the Queen of Codependency. And I remember that when she saw that, the irony was that when I finally started to get this thing and I was in recovery and I started doing the deal and I started realizing what the connection with other people and feeling connected and feeling purposeful again by giving my story in the beginning and then by helping others and that kind of thing. And with that altruistic element of it. When I had that going on, I was so excited about it because it was such a, just like an island in the sea of pain I had been going through, and I called her up to tell her about it, and I thought she would be all excited, and she was not in recovery yet from her codependency, and she said something to the effect of, "Well, you might as well just go run off with those friends you have now, and where's my program?" And I said, "It's called Al-Anon. They have a program for that, for people that are affected by others' addiction to get together and share their thoughts and feelings and benefit and do collectively what they can't do alone, what some of us can't do alone." And I know that either recovery I can't do by myself, nor would I want to anymore. Because now what I know is that it is the connections that I turned to from desperation in the beginning that provide the power and, quite frankly, the joy when it's working. And I hope those of you that are in long-term recovery can also feel that same way. So much more work to do. And one of the things I know that I get asked all the time, how do you know if somebody's suffering? If somebody in my life really needs help, because I want them to stop just because this or that happened. And that thing that I look for is continued use despite negative consequences. If you've got somebody that continues to use or drink, even though something negative is happening even from their own perspective, that is a symptom that I know I need to take a look at. And that also applies to family interactions, right? If I've got family interactions and, for example, let me just give you one example of a boundary a thing that I've got to look at. So let's say I'm in recovery and my girlfriend at the time is also in recovery. And, we've decided, okay, we're going to stay in recovery and all that kind of stuff. And she comes home drunk one night. And we made these promises to each other, and it shocks me. And I get angry and I say, oh my God. And of course, as the heart too big, I want to fix this. I just need to get it fixed as fast as I can. So I do something I figure in my sick self at the time that I will issue the strongest ultimatum I can possibly think of to try to correct this behavior. So I say something really smart, like, you know what, if you ever do that again, I'm going to change the locks on the door because this is my house and I'm kicking you out. And that's it. If that ever happens again. Well, then she comes home drunk the next night, and maybe I yell and talk about her mama and, things like that. But do I kick her out? Do I change the locks? So what did I teach her about my word when I do that? What did I teach her about the consequences of her actions? Now, here's the trick. Whose fault is that? Right? So if I want people to stay honest with me and be part of this journey and we can build partnerships, I got to start with me. And I had to learn that from you. Right? So that's just an example. And that's the way I take my life back and I take my power back. Right? And that I learned when I set boundaries that are focused on me and what I'm willing to do. And that today I know that I don't issue ultimatums. I think of what I would do in this situation that I'm willing to do. And I only say that in a boundary that I'm going to draw. And when I do that and I talk about that, it helps. It helps a lot. And understanding, and if anybody that watches this call has got people in their life that is suffering from substance use, one thing I want you to, that I hope you understand, or that I would like to share with you from my perspective, having been on that side, is please try not to take it personal when I lie to you or do all those things that we do. I mean, I can't describe to you what that was like to have my brain hijacked when and I was not, I hear people talk about their experience sometimes in AA, and they say, you know, I just didn't care before I got sober. I hurt people all the time. And that was not my experience. I knew what I was doing. I knew it was, I just couldn't stop. And the behavior that I directed at my family in 100 different ways, they could have been the most perfect people, the most loving people, and they are the most loving people you've ever seen. But it wouldn't have mattered. It was me. That was coming from me. And so they were tactics. And when my family learned how to counteract my tactics, mostly by not believing me until I got in recovery appropriately, that helped a lot. But please, try to understand that I'm not saying let anybody off the hook for anything. Holding us accountable without blaming, shaming, guilting, and all that stuff, but just frankly pointing out what's going on to me is a very powerful part of that. And I do things today, like I say, you know, I don't want to let you run your process with that. I'm not going to get in there and try to steer it, right? But what really, really does the trick with the people I work with more often than not is finding a purpose-driven life. And today, even if that means that I go tell my story and all I've got is pain today, somebody may need to hear that. Somebody else may be feeling the same way I'm feeling. Or somebody else may say, hey, maybe I can help that person. And then therefore I get to get out of my stuff, right? And then that gets to become their purpose, right? So how many people here that said you had a big heart love to help people? So if you love to help people, if you share your story with them and let them work with you, you're helping them, right? Because that's how they get to stay in peace and in recovery. So just something to think about with that, just a gift. And also remember that there are resources out there. Look up your local Al-Anon AA meetings. They're everywhere. I love the fact that I get to travel for work once in a while. And I love going to Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Milwaukee, or where else did I go? Michigan, stuff like that, where I get to go to an AA meeting and say, I'm an alcoholic from California in the beginning. Ooh, that's a big deal. So, and also just another suggestion, that if you struggle to understand the alcoholic or the addicted mind, try going to open meetings with those people. And it might be hard to hear in the beginning. And one thing I want to warn you about is that we laugh a lot. And I want you to know that we are not laughing at you, and we are not laughing at the disease of alcoholism or addiction. It is ourselves we no longer take too seriously, and therefore laughter can be healing, right? Because what we know is that healed people heal people, just like hurt people hurt people, right? And so going around those meetings and hearing some of the stories and hearing the recovery, if you ever want to know if substance abuse recovery works, come to Sacramento and go to my home group's birthday meeting on the last Saturday of the month. Trust me. And you get to see the celebrations that happen. And so I really want to encourage you to think about that. So remember, this is family recovery. We're all in this together. We're all in this thing together, and know that you belong if you choose to. And so the more you bring, and what I think one of the big hints with that is the minute I start going to meetings, or the people that I work with go to meetings, and I change from what can I get from this to what can I bring to this. That's the day when recovery becomes comfortable, when it starts to. And remember that health attracts health. If I'm still attracting a bunch of unhealthy people in my life, I get to look at that today, right? Because if I need to be needed because I don't have my self-esteem where it belongs, what am I going to attract? People that need help inappropriately, right? That want relief from the symptoms of their addiction. Not they want help because they need to get a license so they can take that great job they're getting, or something that I might be able to help them with, right? And I still know that I've got more work to do. It's never done. And that's okay. That's okay. I get to keep growing every day. And remember, the key part, when I take care of me, that's when I can take care of you appropriately. That's when I can come from the right place and take care of you, not from a place of need, not from I need you to need me and all of that sort of stuff. And just know that we can do it. We can. And I hope you will continue to join us on that journey that many of us have begun, and some of us have been on for a long time. And we would sure like to have more people join us. So thank you all for your time. If you have any questions, let Mary Beth know, and she can get them to me. I'm happy to answer them. Happy to speak at any meetings or that kind of thing. I do it all the time, and I really, really enjoy it. So thank you.